I had a PA system that I used for Anzac Day and different council functions. It was in a builder's trailer parked at the back of my house, and it was raided a few months ago. So I don't have a PA system, so I have to speak up. But welcome everyone to this great facility, and thanks to the football club for allowing us to use it. The meeting was called because of the recent, well, it's been going on for quite some time, but it's been a bit more prevalent lately with not only theft but quite extensive vandalism around the town. Both Jen and I have had a lot of calls to our office about it, which we've worked with the local police, and I'd like to welcome today Acting Inspector Tony Stewart and Sergeant Garth Hossack from Tasmania Police, who are here. The idea of today's meeting is to find out where people have had issues with crime around the town, and how we can work to try and find a solution. I know when we've spoken to the police in the past, it's something that their resources just don't allow them to keep on top of at the moment, and with the more brazen thefts, and I've been talking to a few people around the room this morning that have had some ongoing thefts where they just they don't seem to care. There have been house breakages. There have been I heard of a story of a local business that had a big brass pump stolen, but they also used his trailer to take it away. So it's sort of got to that level. So people in the town are rightly concerned about it, and we want to make this a meeting where we can gather as much information about what effects it's had on people in the town, and try and work through to get some solution, and hopefully assist the police to get on top of what's been going on. But I'll introduce Jen now to say a few words, and then we'll get the meeting underway.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming along today, really appreciate it. Also thank you very much to Inspector and also Sergeant for coming along today. I do have an apology from the Minister for Police, Felix Ellis. I spoke to him earlier in the week, and he did commit to having ongoing conversation with me about the outcome of today's meeting. So that's a really positive step. I think it's important that we may have different political ideas, but we will endeavour to try to find a solution, and sometimes that working together. This one's really important. So we have been working actively around finding a solution to crime in New Norfolk or the Derwent Valley since 2017. And that was when, and I hope I'm not just talking about history that most people in this room already know, but I will run through it just in case you're not aware. The then Shadow Minister for Police, David Llewellyn, made a commitment that there would be a permanent police presence here in New Norfolk, and that was after there had been reported incidents happening from that midnight to 6 a.m. period, when this area wasn't or didn't have a permanent police presence, and the police were coming from Bridgewater to this area, and that delay in response time. So that was identified then. At that time, the then Minister for Police, Reen Hitting, stated, so that's how long ago it was, stated that yes, they would introduce a permanent police presence to the Derwent Valley, and they'd also build a new police station. So that's fantastic, but it actually wasn't what the community asked for, but it is a beautiful building. And I know there will be people who would like to make comment on that today, but the permanent police presence and having a community police presence was what was paramount from this community. That was the feedback that we received at that time. So we know that now we have that police station there. There are more police officers that are working actively here in New Norfolk, but that nighttime shift still isn't available. And there's also seems to be a divide, what we're hearing back from the community, where a lot of people in the community don't feel that they know their police officers, and they don't feel like their police officers know them. So they don't have an understanding of where problems are in the community, who the go-to people in the community are, who the elders in the community are. That kind of information comes from a community policing model. And from the information we've received back from people in the community, that engagement and that level of connection isn't there. Whether or not that would make a significant difference, we're not sure, because we know it's not just a policing presence and a policing model that we have as issues now in the Derwent Valley. We know that there are big problems with youth justice. There are a lot of disengaged youth in the area. There's a lot of antisocial behaviour, and we also know that the court systems, there's big delays in court cases being seen, there's big delays in legal aid, and we also know that there are a lot of people living in our community that do that do have addiction issues. So there is a drug issue in the area, there is an alcohol issue in the area, and there's simply not enough funding and enough services for rehabilitation and treatment of those people who do suffer from addictions. And you can see that in a lot of the family dynamics as well. So it's not just a policing issue, I think. So I might hand it over to you, but once more I'd like to thank you all for being here. I think it's really important that we're listening. Labor have taken this to, and I'm not going to throw politics down your throat today, it's beyond that, but we have taken this to the last two elections as an election promise of ours to this community was to have a permanent policing presence. That's something that we've committed to twice, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't commit to that ongoing into the future, because it is important, it is something that this community keep asking for. I can't think of one community organisation, actually I can think of one, but I'm not going to name them publicly because they could be targeted, that haven't either been broken into, vandalised or subject to theft in this community. So that's how bad it's got, and I don't think there's anyone in this community that knows it, that hasn't been touched themselves or knows someone that hasn't been affected. And that's when we know we've got a real problem, because that's not what the culture of this community is. So, thank you.
Okay, so part of would like to have our police officers alongside just to respond to any issues you might have, but I know we've got several community groups here today that have suffered from the crime spoke, so we really would like to hear your story. So if you'd just stand up and give your name and a brief overview of what your issues have been over a period of time.
John Woodhouse.
Yep.
I'm an ex-cop and I was stationed here at New Norfolk for 3 years. As a cop, we used to work midnight till 8 when we picked up people. Cox Brothers was broken into. We grabbed the bloke that was there because we were on duty. There was a beast killed up in Black Hills. The car was pulled up. The beast was being slaughtered up there and they got the people. Midnight to 8 is not a wasted time. You can pick up a lot of people that are touring around. Now personally, I've been living out here for nearly 60 years. We've got the cherry orchard. Well over 60 grand's worth of damage has been done in that orchard, in that property. I lost a Nissan Patrol, which was valued at 30,000. We've had nets knocked off down the side of the church. That was 10 grand's worth. We had another part of the net knocked off, which was a couple of grand. I had irrigation pipes, 6 grand's worth of irrigation pipes knocked off. The pump down at the river, the meter box, we put that in, what do? They came along and smashed it. That cost me, I don't know, $1,000 or $2,000. A couple of years ago, we were broken into. They took, I think, 500 litres or thereabouts of diesel. They weren't happy with that. They transferred the diesel into a spray tank in 20-litre drums. They came back the next day and took the diesel tank. They also punched a hole in the bottom of my tractor tank for nearly $4,000 for a new tank that was mould and had to come from Germany. I couldn't use my tractor for 6 weeks. There are several others. We were broken into, well, just 2 months ago. We had Kelly locks on shipping containers. They got in there and smashed that. They've taken a generator that I had there. We've got 10 cameras around. Bloody hopeless. We've got to have police here patrolling around all night. It'd be surprising how many people you'd pick up by just patrolling around. I'm not blaming the police. I'm not blaming the government. Which government it is, doesn't matter. I don't care. We've got to do something. You're driving people like us mad. I'm coming up 80 and it just drives me mad. It really does when I get told these things. I go out and I find things missing. You don't know for 3 months sometimes what they've knocked off.
Thank you, John.
First of all due respect to the Inspector and the Sergeant, representing the Commissioner of Police. It's Pat Marshall. I've been broken into 3 times. And I want to push for duty of care. If you're aware of something, you need to do something about it. I also believe the Commissioner has a high degree of duty of care to the policemen that travel on the road from Bridgewater to here. And the Commissioner of Police has a duty of care to New Norfolk residents for quick response to incidents that don't occur during all of the night. It's not, that's where the incident, look at the statistics between 1 and 8 o'clock, it's high, very high, the degree of break-ins and illegal things that go on in the town. So in my conclusion, quick response, answer, man the station 24/7. Duty of care, I'm big on duty of care. And answer, man the station 24/7. And Commissioner aware of, answer, man the station 24/7.
Just with the increase in crime, and I'd like to hear from your point of view too, what seems to be driving it at the moment? Is it cost of living pressures? Is it drug issues? Is it just general society issues?
All of those.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not just New Norfolk, it's not just Bridgewater. You know, statewide, it is an issue where we are having an increase in crime. Yeah, the factors are all the same factors here in New Norfolk as they are on the northwest coast where I'm from. Yeah, and we tend to know who the people are, but there's that difference between what we know and what we can prove. And it's still about, you know, we've all known that such and such are doing this, such and such are doing that. Yeah, and we work hard to fill that gap between what we know and what we can prove. Because you get into the court system and it's a completely different game. So, just discussing something with Garth this morning, and he was just saying about, yeah, we've known that's been happening for a long time. So police officers do know, and the reason why we do know what's going on is you still talk to police. You know, we still get the information from the community, and that's what we need. And it may be that just that little bit of a link to push us somewhere. So you know, we're here, and Garth's been here how many years now?
In the division?
Yeah.
23.
Yeah. So invested in the community, has that community contacts, but still needs the community to help him. So yeah, we don't do it on our own. So
Anything we don't get too, we don't get the feedback. As I say, I've been broken in 3 times. I passed on to the police the last time we broke in, and that guy's in jail now. I found out through other sources, but it'd be nice for the police to come around and say, Pat, we found out who broke into your house. I'd feel a lot better. I don't have to care who he is, but just to come around and say, we found out, and I'd say, well, look, good policing, and I'd feel a lot better about it. We just don't get any feedback.
yeah, and I was at a community meeting here 4 or 5 weeks ago, I think, and the same sort of feeling I get, and it's something that we need to do better. It's just that contact. Unfortunately, once it goes into the court system again, we lose track of it. But I agree that you should have a resolution to something you reported, whether it is good or bad. But for us to say, yep, we've done all we can, we haven't got a resolution for yours, what we'll be doing now, so we'll be filing it. And as I said at the meeting I was at a couple of weeks ago, nothing's ever closed. All we're doing is we're not actively looking at that one, because we need to move on to look at other stuff. But if information comes up in relation to that one or anything like that, we go back and have a look at it again. So yeah, I believe you should be getting that feedback to say, well, we've either had a success on this, and we're stupid if we're not ringing people and saying we've done a good job, we've had a success. So we need to do that, but we also need to make that tough phone call and say, no, unfortunately we haven't got anywhere with your crime. Unless something further comes up, we won't be looking at this one much more, we're moving on to other stuff. So.
And ironically that does happen, because when we have to close off an offence report, part of the thing is to notify the complainant of that we can't take it any further, we've gone as far as we can. But we don't do it generally the other way when we have a success, so you're right.
As I said, outside the hours that the station here is open, we do still patrol this area. And it's Bridgewater Division, the station. We have CIBs that work later hours. We have traffic as well. So there's not a permanent presence at those times, but there is still a presence. And there's a number of people out here that we target. We know that they are responsible for some of the things that are going on. So we're doing bail curfew checks. We're monitoring them, so we're patrolling those areas.
As I said last time, that if people know that you're kind of in the area or whatever like that, if they do have a problem, they're more inclined to give you a call rather than going, well, they're not going to be here. So what's the point? You know, that kind of perception change that we need to have.
There's things going on, and they happen, and people won't spend the time reporting them because they know there's no police presence on the town. There's 2 police officers allocated to New Norfolk, and if there's an accident somewhere like down Moyer Road or wherever, they are off the town, and then the vicinity of most of the people that know, especially these guys run around on these motorised bikes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and everybody's sick of them. But they're riding up and down the street, no helmets, on the back wheels, doing all sorts of things. But if they're riding around at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, they're up to no good. I mean, and that's the issue. And what we want is, most people here, we know that yous have got police in the area and they're doing the best they can, but there's not enough of them. And we want 24-hour presence so that the police cars are actually driving around the community and they can see what's going on. So as far as I'm concerned, if most people put their hand up, we're here to try and get 24-hour presence in Norfolk.
Look, I don't want to burst your bubble, it's never going to happen. It is not going to happen. I've been working here since 2007. I've been working at Bridgewater since 1995, okay? This has been brought up for the last 20 or 30 years that I've been in the job, okay? There is, every time they do a check and they do it would take 50 police to have a 24-hour station here, okay? 50 police. We've got about 10,000 people in the area, 10 or 11,000 people in this area. Farrell has 19,000, they're not 24-hour. Kingborough has 40,000 people, they're not 24-hour, okay? So it's purely a numbers game, and every time they do the sums and the maths and they figure out what's going on in each area, they still haven't made Farrell 24-hour, they still haven't made Kingborough 24-hour. So really what hope is there up here? Okay, I know these promises have been made for the last 20 years and I've heard them for the last 20 years. And every time it goes into the paper and every time we hear it, I say the same thing. I've been telling the council up here since the mid-90s that I can't see this place, New Norfolk, going 24 hours. Okay, it becomes that simple. It's a numbers game and it's cost.
I've lived in the town for 50 odd years. Right. We got broken into last Saturday morning. half-assed 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, right? I was in bed sound asleep, my wife was sound asleep, right? They came in through a sliding door that was guaranteed that a bullet wouldn't go through, right? It just, these kids, 3 kids, could break in through that. They got inside the sliding glass doors, they lifted the door up, took it off the hinges, walked in the door, right? They got in the lift, we're fortunate enough to have a lift, right? They got in the lift, they went up the lift, right? Got inside the lounge room, looked round, here's all our car keys, my wife's and mine, hanging on the hooks. Right? Took the lot. Right? Walked out the lounge room, went out the front door, got the wife's car, the keys, the wife's car, took the car, gone. All right, we've got the car back. That fella there, that bald-headed fella there, is working on it now, trying to get it going for us. Right, so we're without, my wife's without her car. Right, we have to get all the keys cut for the unit. That's all I've got left. That there's a key for her car now, $600. Right, what do? What do we get? Nothing, not a thing. Right, I understand what you're saying about the 2 o'clock cut off, but they know that you're not going to be in the town at 2 o'clock. Where we live, we can hear those bikes, we can hear the cars, you can hear the cars revving the guts out. All right, well, hey, that's their car. But our car now, or my wife's car, I could once say it was driven by a little old lady. But I tell you what, you have a look at it now, and you couldn't say that. And what do? Here we are asleep in bed, and they break in, right? And where are they? That's the 3 that they picked up on, what's the name, going across the bridge doing 200 Ks that they've been going to look about. The 3 kids, 15-year-old kids. Christ, when we were 15, we were never allowed out. Mum and Dad knew where we were. Hey, what are 15-year-olds doing out at that hour?
You mentioned before about the government saying, yes, that would be one of the things on their platform, the 24-hour coverage. How's that going to work then from a government point of view? When you're in government, when you become the party of choice, how are you going to change that?
Right. For us, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from the good sergeant. So it's called comparison politics. By saying Kingston don't have that presence or Farrell doesn't have that presence, yes, I know that's an argument, but it doesn't actually go to solving the problem here at all. It's largely irrelevant to the problem here, because what we've got here is a real surge in crime, and any of the models that have been put into place aren't working. And I don't think it's just a policing model that needs to be put into place, and it doesn't have to be this is how it's always going to be. Whether or not there's a surge in numbers to combat what's going on at the moment, whether there's an increase in funding for youth justice treatment programs, or different services coming into the community, or whether or not it's to do with the cost of living at the moment, whether or not it's to do with addiction problems. But I think that we can't just say, look, it's not going to happen, because we have to find solutions. So we have said always that we would introduce a permanent policing problem, and we identified those hours, because that is when a lot of the antisocial behaviour is happening. And even though, according to the statistics, which we actually don't get to see until 3 months later, until they're publicly released ourselves, but what we can see there apparently is that there isn't a need statistically to have that representation or that police presence at those times doing that monitoring, I suppose. But what we know is a lot of people aren't calling in when they've had break-ins and so forth, because they might not know until they turn up and unlock the door of the golf club or the tennis or the cricket club or the football club, or every club, or the RSL, every club that's had been broken into. So we don't, even though I totally understand what you're saying, and a government can't direct the police what to do, I understand that, but we do know that not doing anything isn't helping, and that may be one of the solutions. I think you are doing things, but whether or not there needs to be more done, needs to be looked at, and that is something that we certainly, if we're in government, would be looking at doing. And we've said it twice over, and we'll say it again, that you have that policing and that minimal policing at that time. And I understand Tas Police have a huge job to do. There is so much going on out there, but I don't know whether the same policing model that works in Bridgewater or Gagebrook or Glenorchy, which have huge surges at the moment too. Like, it's not just here, we know that. But this is a country town, and this is a town where everyone knows each other. So we would like to open up that dialogue of looking into what we can do to address this problem, because it's just getting worse.
In 2017, you were petitioning the state government with Llewellyn's office for what was, promised effectively. Whatever happened with that petition?
That petition was tabled in Parliament. That was tabled. So that's another reason why we're doing today, because we have tried to petition. We have tried asking each police minister when they come in. We have tried to hold the government to account over that commitment from Reinhitting that was made, and none of it's worked.
So where are we?
So that is why we are meeting today, to find out as a community what we can do to find a solution to the problem.
Do you have any ideas about magistrates and trying to help increase that?
Well, that's when we started talking today. I did note that there are problems with the Magistrates Court. There's a huge backlog of cases that have to still be heard. We know that 18 out of the 20 children that are up at Ashley Detention Centre at the moment are in remand. So there's a really big problem with our legal system, which must be an absolute frustration as well to Tasmanian Police as well.
Now, talking about neighbourhood watch, we strongly advocate that the residents of the municipality support the police in the best way possible by reporting any suspicious behaviour that they observe, see, hear, witness, whatever the case may be. If we ring the police, contact the police and support the police by notifying suspicious behaviour, we do help ourselves in the long run.
Instead of having just a normal rotation, have some police here, break it up so that you've got some police here at certain times, so it can confuse some of the criminals that's what's going on.
Firstly, rostering is very much tied into awards and that side of things, so to change rostering is very difficult, and you have to have agreement and that sort of thing, so changing rostering is not easy. As far as the different hours, and I'll defer to Garth on this, I know that our police officers that at Bridgewater, Glenorchy, like that, they come out here at different times, and I'm sure if there's some trends here, that the Norfolk station would do some activities outside, and I'll refer to.
Yeah, we do. I can only do it voluntarily, right? I can ask people, and we've come in before and started at 3 in the morning, started at 4 in the morning. But if they say no, I can't make them because our roster is set and they get paid to do a certain roster, and anything after that's overtime. So if there's no overtime going, and I know it's all budgetary, then sometimes I'll get them here in plain clothes. We get a plain clothes car from the CIB, and we will go out at 4 o'clock in the morning and just hop up. I guess the crux of it is it's voluntary. And if my guys say no for whatever reason, then that's it. I can't make them. So.
But we do target where there's, as I say, we target where we know there's issues. And the only way we know these issues is by reporting. So I do get frustrated when I hear people say, oh, we don't bother ringing because you won't come. Ring us, give us that opportunity to respond. As I said, we may be a minute away, we may be 20 minutes away. If there's something going on that we need to be aware of, ring up and report it so that we do have that. And then you talk about, and we go on, we talk about our statistics and reporting that the figures aren't there. If you're reporting what's going on, the statistics tell it. So, yeah, I really do implore you that if something's happening that you think we need to know about, whether it's 8 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever time, ring us.
My name's Hayden Pearce. I own quite a bit of Willow Court, and when you say that they used to take copper from Willow Court, you know, I've been burgled 5 times in the last 2 weeks. I've lost about $30,000 worth of stuff. I've rung the police multiple times. My wife has rung the police multiple times. I still haven't had any police come and see us about it. And, you know, what do we do? And of course, I ring and we don't get to see them. You know, I get the odd phone call and, you know, nothing's followed up. You know, so look, I'm still losing lots of copper. We lost in one of the burglaries a ton of bronze. In the middle of the night, they steal my trailer and they use that to unbolt it and take it away. You know, and it's like, it happens all the time. And what do? We just talk about it.
David Dogfield from Convened, and I'm running the building project next to Woolworths. And unfortunately, you've both just walked into an ambush now with the "you tell us will come." As Hayden said, just doesn't happen. I've had some excellent responses from the police, and we have caught some youths. But we have 2 types of crime. We have the kids who are coming in and smashing the windows, and we have the organised criminals who are coming in and taking the copper. Now, when you say call and we'll come, when you ring up your sort of control room, yes, there'll be somebody there in 10 minutes. Had about $10,000 worth of property damage. Half an hour later, yeah, no, they're on the way. They're just there. They'll be there soon. No worries. Another hour later, yep, they'll be there in a minute. Then I get a phone call from a police officer from New Norfolk. Oh, we don't come to property damage. $10,000 worth of property damage. We don't come to property damage. So all of these people here, why would they bother to call you when you get that response? And again, as I said, I've had some excellent responses. We have caught people. But when you have your police saying, we don't come to $10,000 worth of property damage, why would we have any faith? Let alone, as everybody has said, everybody knows that at 3 o'clock in the morning you can do whatever you want in Norfolk, because there is nobody here. And everyone knows that.
Thanks, David.
I've got a mechanical workshop, and there's a lot of wrecked yards on another adjoining block, which is with no fence. Now, the other night they got in, there was 3 of them. One was the organiser. He was walking in with a little torch. This is in Lowell Road, just along from Laurie over there. And all they took, they cut a lot of fence to get in. All they took was 2 aluminium radiators, which are worth nothing these days. A catalytic converter, which is probably worth $80. And they took a battery out of a forklift. I've found a few more video footage of good facial on one guy. I've uploaded that to the evidence file, or portal. They were going to come and get a statement off me 2 weeks ago, but I haven't seen one yet.
Do they tend to be the same group? Because I know the Derwent Valley Railway was hit 3 nights in a row and they took copper and they took batteries out of machines and that type of thing. Is it the same group, do you think, Garth?
Hard to say. It happens in cycles. We had a heap of businesses broken into recently, including Timble Park got broken into, then the Scout Hall got done a couple of nights over, and then another business got hit. Do we believe they're the same people? Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And we've got footage of 2 perpetrators, for want of a better word, on push bikes. Every time they do a review on these 24-hour stations, they say they look at the stats and they look at our SCAD system, which is our calling system, and they say the reports between the hours of midnight and 8 o'clock are very low. Okay, and that's their answer. That doesn't warrant. Statistics talk, and you can bend a statistic to do what you want. But if no one rings up and they go, well, we're only averaging 1.2 calls a
Sorry to
night.
interrupt, Sergeant, but as I said, when I ring up and I get that we don't come.
Well, I don't know who that was and I don't know when it was, but you can feel free to talk to me about it later. But we can't just be everywhere at once. We've got to triage jobs.
And then more recently, there was a multi-agency blitz in the Central Highlands with vehicle inspections, wildlife and police, all involved in it. And so there were blitz to address these issues. Why can't we have a blitz to address the crime issue and have one night up here we have 10 police cars on patrol and 20 officers, and then the next week they can go to Farrell or Kingston or Glenorchy and have a roving police blitz on crime. We've had police blitzes on alcohol, speeding, wildlife. Why can't we have a blitz on crime?
Good point.
There's been a total of 369 offences up here this year. Okay, when you break that down by 10 months, that's 36 a month, it's 1 point something a day. Okay, so I know it seems a lot, we are getting smashed lately, I admit it. School holidays don't help. Okay, and there's a lot more housing coming in here than there used to be. And I'm not pointing the finger at those people, I'm just saying we're getting more and more people. There's a couple hundred more houses, so there is a lot more people coming in. Through my charge book, just New Norfolk charge book, we've had 187 people arrested and put through the charge book this year. We've had 384 files come through the station. That's just New Norfolk. Okay, this is 2 officers on day shift, 2 officers on afternoon shift. Okay, and we have had, like I said, 187 arrests and 384 pieces of correspondence have gone through my desk. Okay, so the guys are not doing nothing. Okay, they are doing a lot. Out of those offences, I would say a third to a half have been cleared. Okay, just doing it at a rough statistical thing. But a lot of them are multiple offences. You might have one person that's, you do a burg steal, you can have someone break into a house, destroy property inside, steal stuff whilst they're in there, and then a motor vehicle stealing when they take the car to go. Okay, so that's counted as 4 offences. It doesn't mean it's 4 individual offences. So out of that 369, that's broken down into individual offences. But one incident could be 4 or 5 offences, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you could have a destroyed property, assault, burg steal as one. So it comes on one offence report, but it comes out as that many offences. So don't feel bad that 369 is individual things that have happened. It could be 250.
One more comment just about staffing. There's been a number of vacancies out at the New Norfolk area for some time. Some have been long-term sick leave. We've just filled one vacancy. The officer will be out starting in a couple of weeks.
Now already.
There's someone here that's already working out here, likes to work, so he's starting, will officially start in about 4 weeks, and then in a couple more weeks' time, there's 2 experienced police officers from another jurisdiction that have been posted out here to try and fill the gap where there's been long-term sick leave and long-term vacancies to try and assist. So we have those extra police coming out here that will help hopefully with the community police and those sort of things you'll see them about.
Our long-term vacancies don't get filled. Okay, someone that goes off on long-term sick leave for post-traumatic stress or whatever, I've had someone off here for 5.5 years. Okay, I don't get a replacement. So the guys that are there pick up the slack. And it does get bad, and I've been down to a quarter of my strength only 3 months ago. Okay, but it's all built back up again. As of December, I've only got 2 long-term, one's retiring, so he's taken a couple of months off before he goes, and one's been on long-term sick leave for a year. Okay, you just got to be aware that these guys pick up the slack, there is no replacements. And that's purely a numbers game. Where do we get the numbers from? If I take them, then they're taken from somewhere else that's going to have a shortage, so there's only a finite amount of police officers.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to everyone for attending today, especially Garth and Tony for giving up their time to come. I think these sort of forums help an understanding about the issues. It's an issue that obviously isn't going to be a quick solve, but there's been some good suggestions, and I'm sure if we need to reconvene just to find out where we are, because it's channels of communication, I think, that make things a lot better to understand, and we really appreciate you honesty with the difficulties that the police force face, and we just hope that you're available to talk to us in the future if we need to get together and do it in a respectful way that we have today. So thank you very much for your attendance, and thank you to everyone for coming along.